All right, folks, welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show. A couple of things. A lot is being made about the fact that David Letterman's last show is tomorrow. I used to be a huge David Letterman fan, but then I used to be a huge, Bruce Springsteen fan and all this. But then when you find out, and it becomes obvious with a guy like David Letterman, what a blatant left-wing, radical liberal they are, how, if you're true to yourself, do you watch this person and laugh anymore? Now, someone in the newsroom asked me earlier, you ever meet David Letterman? Twice. I met David Letterman in a fight back in the early 80s at Madison Square Garden. I was covering it for WABC Radio at the time, and I went up to him. It was before the fight, and I introduced myself to him, and he, we were the only sports talk in town at the time, and he knew who I was, which was the thrill of my life. And then he says, hey, I want to introduce you to my friend, Dustin Hoffman, who I didn't even notice was standing right next to him. So that was number one. Then he had this segment on his show called Find a Date for Debbie, one of his segment producers, I guess. And I knew a writer at the Letterman show, so they called me. I was single at the time. And so they said, you want to come on the show possibly and be a part of this? So I said, yeah. So I went up there, and we're in the green room, me and three other guys, and all four of us were, I guess, the possible candidates. So what was going to happen was, one by one, we're called into the green room. And we sit down. You walk into the green room, conference room. There's David Letterman at the head of the table with this girl who I guess was Debbie, packed around the conference room, I guess producers and directors and lights and cameras. Letterman sitting there in a T-shirt with his cigar and a baseball cap, okay? The cigar in between his teeth. And the cameras are rolling, and she's asking me all kinds of questions, and he keeps saying, he pokes her, I would choose Steve. I would choose Steve. He's on the radio. I would choose Steve. Well, she didn't choose me. And no surprise to the control room, I'm sure. And but nonetheless, even though I wasn't on the show, I did get paid for being on the show, because if you're in AFTRA, the union, they got to pay like it was $600. And then they repeated the episode, which I also wasn't on, and I got another check in the mail. So that's my brush, with fame as it applies to David Letterman. Now, on to more serious matters here before the Malzberg panel joins us in the next segment. Jeb Bush, who has put his foot in his mouth several times, and I'm no fan of Jeb Bush on many, many levels, whether it's education, whether it's immigration. I'm no fan of Jeb Bush, plus his association with James Baker. But here he was asked on the Brody file about gay marriage, and I want you to watch what he said.
I think traditional marriage is a sacrament. It's talking about being informed by one's faith. It's at the core of the Catholic faith. And to imagine how we're going to succeed in our country unless we have committed family life, a child-centered family system is hard to imagine. So irrespective of the Supreme Court ruling, because they're going to decide whatever they decide, right. And I don't know what they're going to do. We need to be stalwart supporters of traditional marriage.
Yes, we absolutely do. Traditional marriage. And why do we even have to call it traditional marriage? For crying out loud. Marriage is between a man and a woman. That is marriage. You want to call something else, call it something else. You want to give legal rights to something else, give it to something else. But it's not marriage. Traditional marriage is marriage. Look it up in the dictionary, okay? And almost every time it's been put to a vote in this country, people vote for traditional marriage. It's a court that comes in and overturns it. It's a state legislature that may come in and overturn it, although that's rare too. It's usually a court. Even in California, Prop 8, where blacks voted in higher percentage than any other ethnicity for Prop 8 to define marriage as between a man and a woman. Oh, we can't report that, the media said all those years ago. The courts come in and overturn it. That's why we are where we are with the marriage issue. Here's more from Jeb Bush.
If we want to create a right to rise society where people, particularly children born in poverty, if we want to have them have a chance, which should be a core American value, we have to restore committed, loving family life with a mom and a dad loving their children's soul.
It's a no-brainer. By the way, don't say core. Okay, don't say core, because that's like core curriculum, which is something that I abhor. Okay, don't put core into marriage, okay? Whatever you do. But I fear, well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this time around they will. Maybe this time around, they will take the opening that was given by Rand Paul and Debbie Wasserman Schultz, actually, and stick up for the right to life. Maybe this time around, what Jeb Bush is saying will come from the lips of no matter who the Republican candidate is, and they'll stick up for traditional marriage instead of running away on both issues. I could hope. You could hope. We could hope if you're in that camp. If you're not, then you're dead set against what I'm saying. One more from Jeb Bush.
Do you believe there should be a constitutional right to same-sex marriage? Because that's the argument in front of the Supreme Court.
I don't, but I'm not a lawyer, and clearly this has been accelerated at a warp pace. What's interesting is that 4 years ago, Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton had the same view that I just expressed to you.
Yeah.
You know, it's thousands of years of culture and history is just being changed at warp speed. It's hard to fathom why it is this way.
Well, it is this way because you have a media. It is this way because you have 10 people sitting in a room somewhere that if anybody says what I say, usually, they'll write that corporation's boss or that person's boss. Look, it is what it is because the gay lobby, the gay activists demand total tolerance. And if you don't agree with them 100%, you're a bigot, you're a homophobe, you're whatever. They exhibit no tolerance to an opposing point of view, but they demand total tolerance, and they will go after you and after your job. They can hang gays in Iran, that doesn't bother them. But have someone disagree with them on marriage, and you should be fired. That's why we are where we are. The panel's next.